this is another alternative way to do the problems related to the combined gas law. So if you remember, when I taught you this, I taught you two ways to do these problems. One was what I call the thinking way, and that's what I did on the primary final review. When I took a look at what I'd done, I realized that I didn't give you the formula way, so I'm going to show you the way to solve this kind of a problem, number 13, 14, and 15, using formulas. So if you look at your final review, on your cheat sheet, you should have this formula written down as T1 V2 P2 equals T2 V1 P1. Now sometimes if you look around on the internet, you'll see other versions of it, like another one I'll write up at the top is V1 P1 over T1 equals V2 P2 over T2. But this is the one I put on your cheat sheet, so I'm going to, or I put on your gas help sheet, that is. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one. All right, you still need to make your chart like I pointed out on the previous video, or the other video that I didn't take off is still there. In that problem, I told you to create a volume 1, volume 2, pressure 1, pressure 2, temperature 1, temperature 2. So volume 1 would be 800 milliliters in this case. You will need to know units of volume, units of pressure, units of temperature. Okay, pressure 1 is 5 atmospheres. Pressure 2 is 10 atmospheres. If you look over here, it's 10. And temperature 1 is 200 K. Remember, temperatures always have to be in Kelvin. And temperature 2 is 400 K. All right, so if we plug our numbers in, temperature 1, I'm going to go ahead and put in 200 K. I'm going to leave out the units because I've got a tight space and a pen that writes kind of fat. We're looking for volume 2. We don't know what that is, so just put a V2 in there. Pressure 2 was over here is 10 atmospheres. Making a little chart helps you keep your units, keep your numbers organized. All right, over on this side, T2, 400 K. V1, 800 milliliters. And pressure 1, 5 atmospheres. So now you just have an easy algebra problem. So you multiply the 400 times the 800 times 5. I'll go ahead and do that. 400, and I'm doing it on the side here, times 800 times 5. So I get 1,600,000. On this side, I got 200 times 10, which is 2,000 V2. So now how do you solve this? Do you divide both sides by 1,600,000, or do you divide both sides by 2,000? Let's go with the correct way, which would be divide by 2,000, because we want to divide by the number that is with the variable so that it cancels out. Too many times this year I've seen people try and divide both sides by the 1,600,000. All right, I'm out of room over here, so I'm going to say V2 equals 1,600,000 divided by 2,000. So V2 should equal 800 milliliters. All right, taking a look at the second one, use the same logic. You have a V1, you have a V2, you have a P1, you have a P2, you have a T1, you have a T2. So V1 is 400 milliliters. Pressure 1, 6 atmospheres. Temperature 1, 300 K. I'm just reading the numbers listed here. Volume 2, we don't know, question mark. But 300 K is the second temperature. Now remember, the temperatures always have to be in Kelvin, and on the final review guide I put them in Kelvin, but I might not on the test. And second pressure is 4 atmospheres. All right, so now you can set up your formula. T1 V2 P2 equals T2 V1 P1. All right, so T1 we said was 300 K. V2 we don't know. P1, oh P2 I mean, this is a 2, couldn't read my writing. P2 is 4 atmospheres. All right, T2 is 300K. So since the temperature didn't change, I could just leave that out, couldn't I? But we won't right now. So V1 is 400 milliliters. But you can leave the units off for space. And P1 is 6 atmospheres. Okay, so I just say 6. Okay, so now I've got on the side, I'm going to do 300 times 400 times 6. So I get 720,000. And on this side, 300 times 4 is 1,200 V2. So I'm going to divide the 720,000 by 1,200. And my answer is 600. So V2 equals 600 milliliters. All right, last one of these. You got V1, V2, and so on. So just do it real fast. V1, V2, P1, P2, and T1, T2. You don't really need to dot your 1, but I just did. Okay, so 300 milliliters here, 5 atmospheres here, 500K here. 3 atmospheres for P2, 300K here. All right, so set up your formula. T1, V2, P2 equals T2, V1, P1. T1, 500. V2 don't know. P2, 3 equals T2, 300K right from here. V1, do we know what V1 is? Yes, 300 milliliters. And P1, 5 atmospheres. All right, so we have 300 times 300 times 5, then divide that by, it'll be 15, well, we're going to have 1,500, I'm shortcutting here, V2 equals 450,000. So now you divide both sides by what? Oops. So you're going to divide both sides by 1,500. On this side they cancel, and V2 equals 450,000 divided by 1,500. Our calculator says 300, and my answer sheet says 300, so it looks like we're right. So that's the other way to do the combined gas law problems. You can either use the thinking method that I showed you in the first video or this method.